All right, just when you thought Vite couldn't get any better, it does. Now we have another AI browser, and Vercel has put out 2 back-to-back conferences. We'll find out what happened in those. Let's get into it. It's Front End Fire, and I'm your host, Jack Harrington. With me this week are my esteemed colleagues, TJ Van Tol.
Hey, everybody.
And Paige Niederinghouse.
Hey, hey.
All right. Well, it's been kind of a big week for news. I mean, a lot of conference. It's like conference season, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing the conference thing. Yeah. Well, let's find out what they're announcing. All right, before we get into it, just one quick thing about Remix 3. I did say last week that Remix 3 was not a VDOM framework, and it turns out it actually is. Having spent a lot of time with the Remix 3 source code and our friend Claude, we did a lot of reverse engineering on it and found out that the mechanism behind its update and now what they call render is actually like a full, like, kind of React-ish framework. It's not React, it's not Preact, it doesn't have like an event model, things like that, but that rendering system is that the JSX becomes like a transient VDOM. That VDOM is then applied to the real VDOM, and then that is then reconciled against the actual DOM, giving you a rendering cycle that is very equivalent to like a React or a Preact, but not like a solid. So if it's not fine-grained like a solid, it's component level updating like a React.
Interesting. I will take your word for that.
Well, I just want to clear that up. There was a lot of confusion on our friendly site X about this.
Yep, good to know.
All right, now back to the actual news. All right, TJ, we have another browser now?
Well, yeah, so remember how on social media for the longest time, the joke was always days since a new JavaScript framework, and then they'd always post it with 0. The new joke is days since a new AI browser, because that counter has hit 0 again because we have yet another AI browser. This one's kind of a big one, so I think it's definitely one we should talk about because it's from OpenAI. It's ChatGPT's rumored browser that we knew they were building this for quite a while, but it is now out. It is now available. It is called Atlas, which I think is a pretty good name for a browser. It's pretty good.
Okay.
It's Chromium based because of course these things all are. I'll just start by talking about the things that it's like every other one of these, because AI browser kind of implies a certain amount of features. The default home screen in the URL bar, it just does a ChatGPT sort of search instead of using Google, exactly as you'd expect. There's a sidebar because all of these things have a sidebar for your AI
Firefox,
chat to go.
By the way.
Firefox does have a sidebar for ChatGPT.
I started using Firefox because of you, and it does have it has any provider you want. I put in Claude, and it's
really
nice.
I've only used it with ChatGPT, so I've not set that up. So
okay.
The one cool thing that Atlas does is that if you open, let's say you do a ChatGPT search, you ask, what's the best way to get started with TanStack Start, for example, and it gives you back links. As part of so it'll do the normal ChatGPT, it'll answer your questions, but any links that it drops in there, if you click them, it'll go to the link and it'll keep the context of the chat in the sidecar. So it kind of shifts the chat to the side and then just brings the link up, which I actually think is kind of...
Okay, I like that. I like that. Yeah.
It's a minor thing, but it's kind of nice because then you still have the context from your chat, but you've opened the link now and you can check that out. And then you can ask questions because it'll now have the context of the link that you went to. So, minor thing, but that's pretty nice.
And you could go to other links, right? And kind of maintain that flow. I think those minor things are actually pretty major in terms of these usability. Yeah.
Yep, because you can sort of keep all of that context in one place. And then, of course, the agent is aware of it, all of the history, and takes that into account as you're going, because, of course, it is, and whatnot as well. There's an agent, which, again, all of these things have agents. We knew OpenAI has been working on one. We've covered some of what they've been doing in this space on this podcast, so it shouldn't be any surprise, but there's an agent built into this, so you can ask it to do tasks, and it'll sort of take over the browser and do it for you. It does, interestingly, when I tried it out, it prompted me whether I wanted to it should take actions while logged into my accounts or while logged out, which
okay.
I guess. I don't know how much that's actually going to protect me, but I guess the thought is that if it's acting for me and logged out, there's only so much damage it can do.
Sure.
Versus if it has full access, then it can potentially go kind of nuts. So
that makes sense.
I guess cool.
Yeah.
And then there's two features that I mostly wanted to talk about that are kind of a little bit unique. One's a very small thing, but I think is kind of cool. There's a feature of the browser called inline text editing. And basically the way it works is, say you're in a Google Doc and you're editing it or whatever. You can highlight any text, and then a little icon will appear in the top corner of the text where you can just open up ChatGPT. And so let's say you want to reword something. And so you'd highlight that text, you'd click the little ChatGPT icon and say, reword this to sound better or whatever. And then it would just inline edit that text.
That's cool.
And it's at the browser levels, which means, like, I use Google Docs as an example, but this could be gmail.com. This could be, wherever you happen to be. It could be in a text box on a random form you're filling out, and you could just ask it for it. And I don't know, that feature, I thought, it's a small little thing, but it's nice. I've ran into that sort of thing. There's a lot of other services that are doing this individually. I know that we use Confluence from Atlassian at work, and they have a feature like this, and it doesn't work very well.
No. Shocking.
Summarize, do notes for meetings, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so a bunch of services are building this sort of stuff individually, and those things now feel kind of silly because I don't know, I trust ChatGPT to do that a lot more than I do just some random service out there, even if it's a service as big as Atlassian.
It's probably just calling ChatGPT, but yeah.
They probably are, yeah.
Yeah, this is just taking out the middleman in the equation. And then maybe, go ahead, Jack.
Well, I was going to ask, who's paying for this? Like, is Atlas, like, you logged in?
That's what I was wondering. Is it free?
Like, what is this?
It's available for free users. I don't know at what point. I would think at some point, especially if you're using their agent, they would tell you you've reached some sort of quota. I don't know that. I have whatever the $20 a month plan is with ChatGPT.
And you had to log in. You logged in.
And you do have to log in.
OpenAI account. Okay.
To get through there. Yeah, you have to log in regardless, but it is available for free users. What I don't know is what sort of gate they put for free users if they cut you off at some point. But
even free users would need an account. Oh, do you need to create an OpenAI account? Probably.
Yeah.
Yes, they do have to have an account. That's the first thing it prompts you for. It did crash on me twice while I was trying to download it and log in, so that was not the greatest experience, but it's early days. And then the most interesting feature to me in here, and probably also the most controversial, is that they have this feature called browser memories. And I'll just read from this website. Browser memories let ChatGPT remember context from the sites you visit and bring that context back when you need it. This means you can ask ChatGPT questions like, find all the job postings I was looking at last week. So basically, you opt in, so they do have a gate in place. You don't have to do this when you use their browser. But if you do, basically you're sharing your browsing history as well as some of the browsing context with ChatGPT, which is on one hand a little bit scary and creepy, but on the other hand could be really useful because there's definitely been times where I've been like, I can't remember, what was I looking at last week that was related to this? And
if you ever bring up the history in your browser, looking for, trying to look for the titles,
it's the worst.
Wait, what was that? And then you do these contextual things. Like, it's like, okay, I just went to coffee and I searched for this. And then and it's like, okay, I can see where this is a thing. Yeah.
I run into this in Slack all the time too, where Slack's search is very, very good, but it's relying on exact matches of text usually. Whereas the nice thing about ChatGPT is you can kind of phrase things very vaguely. And in theory, again, this is a completely and utterly brand new feature, but I see the potential here. In theory, you could just word things vaguely and it would be smart enough to figure out what you were doing. And it's, like I said, it's a little bit creepy because you are sharing a whole lot with OpenAI, but at the same time, at least you can see the potential gain you would get from that sharing.
Yeah, I
Totally.
mean, everybody seems to have forgotten that privacy was a thing that they once had and valued if you look at today in general. So I think plenty of people will turn this on. I'm interested to
Privacy.
see how well it works. Like, is
Yeah.
ChatGPT actually smart enough to figure out when you vaguely say, "Hey, I was looking at this recipe about potato salad last week. Can you find it again?" If it actually can.
Right. If
Yeah.
it was actually macaroni salad or something like that, and it's like, oh
Right.
wait, your memory
Yeah, it's
is
like, no,
faulty.
you were
You
actually
know.
looking at how to roast potatoes, but that's
Right. But
similar.
it's a potato related phenomenon. So let's go
Yeah,
with that. Yeah, exactly.
right.
You're so right, Paige, though. It's funny with these AI tools how even some of us that are consider ourselves decently privacy conscious almost like somehow manage to turn it off when it comes to some of these tools. Like people give medical questions to ChatGPT, they ask financial advice. They basically will tell these bots their deepest, darkest secrets, things that you'd be
Yeah.
hesitant to put in almost anywhere else. It's funny.
Yeah. People have online girlfriends and boyfriends with these bots. They use them as illegal therapists. And, you know,
Didn't
we've
they
already
just
talked about
didn't
states that are
OpenAPI?
making that illegal, that you can't do that in certain states. Yeah,
And I heard just recently OpenAI actually said we're actually going to go and open it back up for
that
dating.
is right.
And
They
it's
are
like,
going
They're
into
uh,
sexting with OpenAI. They're going to make that
okay.
legal for adults.
they're loosening the restrictions, and we will see. We'll see how that goes. But now you can do all of this through your web browser. So now that you can download Atlas, the browser can have context of all your web browsing on top of all the other secrets you've been giving it, and
Hmm.
it's all on Chromium. So in theory, it prompts you. You can import all of your history from Chrome, so you can just keep right on going. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
We'll see.
thought if we thought Google knew too much about us, OpenAI is going to know
Yeah.
way more.
Yeah.
Yep. Just wait till they start doing ads. They'll know,
God.
be the most targeted ads ever.
Well, if they make money through ads, I don't know. I'm kind of like, in a way, a little bit happier with that than other ways they can make money with this thing. Like, anyway. All right. Shall we talk about V Plus?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So Vite is everybody's favorite build tool, and I think it was either earlier this year or maybe last year. I can't remember. It's going so quickly. Evan Yu, who's the creator, started a company called Void Zero, and they started building out this unified tool chain of Vite tools. So, bundlers and parsers and minifiers and linters and you name it, they wanted to do it. They wanted to build it in Rust, so it was super fast. And they've already been rolling out all these kind of supporting tools that Vite can use. There's Oxlint, there's OxMFT, there's Vite Test, which everybody uses. There's roll down and roll up and all this stuff. And now they have just announced Vite Plus, which is a command line dev tool that is a drop-in upgrade to Vite. So what you get, in addition to the things that we kind of know and use typically, like Vite Dev and Vite Build for our repos, is you get commands like Vite New, which is for scaffolding new new projects with a recommended structure that works best with Vite. They said it's really good for mono repos in particular. You'll get Vite Test, which is for running Vitest. You'll get Vite Lint for running your Oxlint. You'll get Vite FMT, which is for Ox FMT, which is code formatting. That's coming soon. It's not actually available yet, but it's coming. Vite Lib for bundling your libraries with like best practices baked in, like using roll down and TS down and some of the new nicer bundlers. Vite Run, which is a built-in monorepo task runner with intelligent caching. So they said it's like Turbo Repo, but the caching mechanisms are better, basically. Better at invalidating and caching what should and should not be kept in memory. And Vite UI, which is a GUI dev tools for insights into module resolve and transform behavior, bundle size and tree shaking, analysis, and integration with framework-specific dev tools. So just like a whole smorgasbord of Vite goodness. Yeah, tons of stuff. And it's free.
Wow.
Should say it's going to be free. I don't think it's available yet, but it's free for individuals, for open source projects, and for small businesses. And then they're going to charge flat annual licensing fees for startups and then enterprise pricing for big enterprise customers.
Excellent.
But they're trying to make it available to anybody at any price point. They say that all the services that it's built on top of, so all the Vite stuff that we already know and love, that's going to continue to stay completely open source, completely MIT licensed forever. But if you want all of these kind of nice extras to the Vite ecosystem that you already like and use, it's going to be there in early 2026. So pretty neat.
Well, when they launched Void Zero, one of our biggest questions was, how do they intend to actually make money off of this initiative? And I feel like this is their answer. And it's honestly fairly compelling. It's
Yes.
It's kind of a really fun model, because it's basically saying, if you're doing side projects, open source work, or if you're a small company, whatever, just use it for free. But the big companies that can afford to pay should pay.
Yeah.
And usually the bigger companies are pretty decent about that. I mean, there are always going to be some people that try to skirt the rules and just try to get away with it. But there's the biggest of the big companies care about compliance. They care about that sort of thing. So they'll probably pony up for this, because, I mean, based off what you listed off, this seems like a really useful tool that a lot of people are going to want.
All the things. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot honestly think of anything more. Like, I'm sure that there's some like AI integration yada yadas that they could do in there, but like, wow. As you were listing those off, I'm like, how many people are there doing this? There's like, there usually is at least like one per one of these things, you know? It's like, wow. Oh, incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it's very cool. It's fully compatible with the existing Vite ecosystem. So if you use React or Vue or TanStack Start or SvelteKit, it already just works. Everything is built in Rust, from the parser, the resolver, the transformer, the minifier, the bundler. Everything is super fast. They very much have a focus on performance, as they have up until this point. And I think it's so, like you said, it's so smart that they're making this accessible to everyone at every level, because when you start using Vite or Vite Plus for your side project and you realize how much you like it, the first thing that you're probably going to do at work when you're starting a new project or when you're upgrading your existing one is be like, hey, let's also use this. And that kind of developer goodwill is going to probably just continue to propel them, as it has been for how many people are going to be using this at larger scales.
You know, and the first thing that the architect or the principal is going to do when they look at your PR is be like, oh, Vite, okay. And imagining that they don't know what Vite is, which is pretty much impossible at this point. You know, they might be like, well, how would, can we depend on this company being around? What's the deal? And being able to say, hey, okay, Vite's business model is that they are getting money out of big business, blah, 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 blah. That's how they're going to maintain their financial structure, that's how they're going to be around. It answers the existential question about the tooling, which is so critical,
Yeah.
Yeah, and these things are hard to pull off. I think the only reason that I'm optimistic about them is just because they have this track record of having a useful tool that's incredibly useful, because selling a developer tool to businesses is very hard. As someone that's been most of my career, it is an uphill battle. But the best way to do it is have a tool that lots of people use and lots of people love. That's the best way to make that happen.
And to have a track record of just being really quality. Like I can't think of a single person I've ever talked to that's been like, wow, Vite really, is garbage or whatever. It's like, no, like everybody's like, God, I love Vite. I wish I could be on Vite. I use Vite for all my side projects, blah, 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 blah. It's like, great. Awesome.
No, it looks like, because it's coming in 2026, it looks like they don't have pricing information quite yet, which makes sense. They're just announcing it. It's a little bit early, but I'm going to be very interested to see exactly where they set that number and how that's going to work. But
Yeah.
we got some time before we get there.
Yeah, and if you're listening and you are interested in like being a beta tester, I think they are looking for people to really early try out the Vite Plus beta. So if you want to, go check out the link, we have it in the show notes, and tell us what you think if you do sign up.
There you go. All right, well, that kind of somewhat segues into the Vercel releases this week. They did Next.js Conf on the 22nd. And TurboPack was one of the big releases there. So, TurboPack is faster than it was before, 5 to 10 times faster on refresh and faster builds and all that sort of stuff. And when you have like massive Next.js apps, these things really start to like bog you down. So, having a good bundler in there is important. And now TurboPack is compatible with everything that's come before. So, that was one of the big releases. Another big release was cache components, like they've done, and like new, well, not new really. So they released like a new caching system based on Pragma's, like actually last year. I remember doing a video on it for Pro Next.js like a year ago, I think. And now it's like, oh, now we're actually releasing this thing. This is the new way that we're doing caching. So I think this is now the third iteration of caching inside of the app router. They had the original caching, which is super heavy-handed. Then they rolled that back so that it's defaulting to almost no caching. And now they've got this new caching stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot more fluent. You can kind of like express your caching in like human terms, like cache for days, cache for hours, that kind of thing, which is cool. Also in their Next.js DevTools MCP, that I don't really oh man, I don't know. I hate to poo-poo things without actually trying them, but like, I guess so it basically just puts like an MCP for your app, but it's like the DevOps side of your app, like auto deploys in Next.js, so then you can talk to your app, like with Claude or Cursor and say like, how's my bundle size doing? Stuff like that. It's not the MCP that I think most folks want out of it, which is like actually making an MCP route on your app, that like customers can talk to, but it's cool.
I thought it might be in the vein of the Chrome DevTools where it like hooks into the Next has the little icon like all of these tools do now. I thought it might hook into that, but it sounds like it's like your friend for your ops processes, I guess. I don't. It sounds kind of weird, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like it would be the dev side of DevOps, where it's like you're kind of trying to figure out like why your application's slow, or if you've got like multiple copies of stuff, I guess, or things like that.
I can see that.
Is it related to the flag that they enabled in like Next 15 or something, where you could 15.5, where you could like see your console output in your local terminal so that Claude could read it, or Cursor
Probably.
or somebody?
Yeah, probably. I'm guessing.
Okay, because that was like an early step, I guess, towards maybe their version of the MCP for Next.js.
Yeah. And then they've renamed middleware to proxy. Not even sure what that's about, but I guess people were abusing that. I don't know. Anyway, okay. And then the next day they did ship AI. So they've now broken out kind of the Vercel release things into two big pieces. So Next.js Conf on the first day, and then ship AI the next day, and a lot of stuff in there. So they have actually now released the AI gateway. So they'll act as like a middleman between you and your AI gateway and your AIs. AI SDK 6 came out. I need to actually look into that to see what all the updates are there, but hopefully it's not as much of a breaking change as AI 4 to 5 was, which is pretty dramatic. And then a really weird kind of interesting one, which was that they actually lumped micro front end support into the AI day, which I thought was kind of interesting. So now they've got this like micro front end system baked into Next.js, and the idea is that you can have, I guess, AI's kind of composite build an application for you from these micro front ends. I don't know. It's kind of it's interesting.
I wonder, because we talked about when they first brought this up, when they were first introducing it to Next.js, and it's weird because micro front-ends were the hottest new thing a couple years ago, and they've kind of, I'm not going to say they've died off, but the conversation is definitely toned down a little bit. But I wonder if they see this as, well, micro front-ends might be better for an AI world because they're almost like little independent modules that are easier for AI to develop. That's the best connection I can make for you for why it would be included on their AI day. So it is a little bit weird.
Were there any updates to the V0? Because that's another thing that's been a big piece of their pie, hasn't it?
I don't see anything in my summary, but they do have like a Vercel sandbox now, like for like short-lived VMs. I guess that's, maybe kind of in there, where they're trying to like, run the app or portions of the app in like a sandbox. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't see anything in particular on that though. Yeah. Of course, I didn't watch the whole thing. I mean, like all these things.
It's like
they're
8-hour
really
events. You gotta,
Yeah, and there's so many of them. Like you said, it's just every week there's some other conference that's kicking off or wrapping up.
Though, I do appreciate that these guys are doing like the 20 to 30 minute like segment deals. Like, I think that that's a lot more effective. Like, you can actually like structure things and have graphics and like walk people through, kind of stuff, as opposed to just kind of getting up in front of a stage and BSing for like an hour and a half. I'm not saying that anybody's done that recently, but just saying.
Well, I mean, Vercel is quite good at this. We've talked about their conferences are always really high quality. Their videos they produce are very, very good. They're very scripted. They're very digestible. So if there is one of these features that you're curious about, there's usually documentation on them that you can go and check them out afterwards. And that's one of the reasons why they've been pretty successful, is because they do genuinely do a pretty good job when they push stuff out like this, making it approachable for people that want to try it out.
Yeah. And that's part of that equation of making things like enterprise friendly, so that when folks, you get that PR that's like adding this weird tech to your thing, like somebody's going to do a Google search on it and they want to really nicely like put together a professional, thing that's
because then they'll send it to their boss, and because their boss has got to approve the expense or whatever, and so
right,
it looks like a real official thing.
You don't just send them a GitHub repo with the README as the main page.
In the NPM stats is like 1,500 people downloaded this week. Look at that. That's really cool. Nice. Okay. All right. So do we have any fast news this week?
We do.
All right. Let's get into it.
All right, first I got a quick one. Claude Code is now on the web, so you can go to claude.com/code, and they say today we're introducing Claude Code on the web, a new way to delegate coding tasks directly from your browser. This is a beta research preview, which is a mouthful, but you can basically do agentic things using Claude Code in the web. Now, it is explicitly tied to GitHub, so you can only use this if you use GitHub for source control and you have your projects there, which a lot of people do.
Probably do.
Yeah, not everybody does, but a lot of people do, which is what they're probably banking on.
Yeah.
But basically, you just log into your Claude, your GitHub repo, and then you tell it what repo do you want to select, and then you just ask Claude Code a question, and it has the ability to do things like make PRs based off its work and whatnot. So it's similar to Codex from OpenAI. And to that extent, but it's intended for you. They talk about parallel development work a lot. So the thought, at least in their minds, is that you go to Claude Code on the web where you're like, take a stab at this bug fix, or, try running this or whatever, and just let it kind of do its thing on its own while you're busy doing other stuff, and then you check back in on it. Personally, when I've tried this stuff out before, I've not had much success just sending these agents off to do their own thing. I'm still very much in the mindset when I use AI, I'm using it in my terminal or in my development environment on a kind of a hands-on basis. But this is Claude. I mean, everybody's doing this. GitHub's doing this. OpenAI is doing this. Everybody's trying to build this like agentic web dashboard mission control thing. And they envision all of us like we're spawning tasks all over the place, and these agents are getting so much done.
Running. Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know how true that is, but I mean, hey, now Claude has one of these things. So if that's your jam, maybe check it out.
It definitely feels like there's a group of folks who are super into this. Like, you'll see them on X and they'll be like, oh, I'll spawn an agent to go have a look at that kind of thing. You're like, oh, okay. All right.
They're always on X for that sort of thing. Yeah.
They're very vocal on X. To me, this just feels like a way for Anthropic to make a lot of money, because as any of us who have used any of these agents for any length of time know that as soon as you take your eyes off of them, they're going in the wrong direction. They're forgetting things that they talked about three conversations earlier. They're not sticking to their plans that they have made and written up. So letting an agent just have free reign and I'm going to come and check on it in a half an hour, that does not sound like a good time for me personally.
Yeah.
I think that's the one nice thing about Claude Code. Their terminal version did very well, is it's quite easy to interrupt it and set it back on tracks. And I think that's one reason why, at least personally, I think it's the best tool out there, because it really is quite good at that workflow. You can see it start to do something and you can step in and go, whoa, why? No, not those files. We don't want to touch those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know just recently I was we were going to go out to lunch, and I had been vibe coding all morning, and I was, so mostly doing agent work and that kind of stuff. And it was like, I started something. I'm like, I know this is probably going to take like 30 minutes. Okay. And then we went off to lunch, and I'm like, I spent the entire time like, oh man, did it spin? Because you never know. Like sometimes like an innocuous one, it's like, oh, I need this, whatever, like 3 pixels over, and it's like this is spinning on it. You're like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's not go and replace all of our CSS with our Tailwind with CSS, don't go all page on us.
Jack, it's funny you mentioned this, because the last thing they note is that you can also use Claude Code on mobile as part of this research preview. They're making it available on their iOS app. So you could be out and about and you could be doing all this agentic stuff. You could be sending Claude on missions while you're getting your lunch. You're
going to the grocery store.
Listen, I am actually having conversations with Claude when I'm running every once in a while. Seriously, it's a thing. Like you get a brainstorm and you're like, oh, hey, what do you think about this? And it gets the voice transcription right, which sometimes it does. Then it's actually pretty handy.
Well, man, now they just have to wire it up, the voice recognition into this, and you'll be shipping features on your run. It'll be crazy.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's do it.
Then the last lightning news that I had is just a fun one. Did you two hear about the robbery at the Louvre that took place and
No.
Oh, you've not heard this, Jack?
I'm not. No.
Oh, okay. So this is crazy. This is like straight out of a movie stuff.
Okay.
So this happened a couple days ago as we record this at 9:30 in the morning, when the museum had already been open for 30 minutes. These two guys, they drove up in this truck with a mounted ladder, and which are apparently quite common in Paris, that they use these to deliver furniture. Like if you're on a 5th floor apartment and you get a couch or whatever, you bring one of these things up. Well, they rode this thing up to a balcony on sort of the back of the Louvre, and then they used angle grinders to break a window in the back. They smashed a few cases with a bunch of jewelry, like some tiaras, some necklaces, $100 million worth of various gems and such. And then they went back down the ladder and they drove off on some scooters. And they had some scooters ready to go. And they're still at large. They just ran off
7
with
minutes flat. In and out.
7 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, efficient.
There is definitely going to be a movie about this. That's happening. Yeah, okay.
But I don't know. It's a wild story, honestly. It's so brazen to do it when the museum's open. I almost think that probably worked to their advantage.
Like nobody was in the room, like just looking. Whoa, okay. I guess now we're people stealing things. Okay.
Yeah, this is a thing that. Well, when we talked about The Art Thief that I had listened to as a book on tape not that long ago, this is apparently an issue across a lot of museums the world over is that their security systems are just not very good, if they exist at all. And it was another one of these where they don't have enough CCTV cameras. They're not upgraded. They don't have enough actual security staff just keeping an eye on stuff. And yeah, I mean, it was so old school though. These guys just like went in, busted a window, grabbed the jewels, and exited again. There was like no, and not even under the cover of darkness, just in broad daylight. That's the most amazing thing to me.
Well, and I think they were smart in stealing jewelry as well, because some of the issue with art is, what do you do with it? Like actually trying to liquidate it. The art thief, the one thing about that guy is the part of the reason he was able to get away with it is he just kept it in his room, essentially.
Yeah, he never sold it.
He never tried to sell it or anything, which is why he got away with it, because most of these people get caught not in the act, but then presumably they want to cash in on their theft. And but what do you do? Like the Mona Lisa is the most famous story of this. Somebody stole it and then they waited 2 years thinking that might help. And then the second they went to sell it, they instantly like, yeah, isn't that the Mona Lisa? Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Turn it in.
Yeah, exactly.
But you steal jewelry like this, some of these pieces have hundreds of gems on them. Well, you just bust it up and just sell the gems, recut the gems. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it seems like a far more liquidatable, I guess, theft than stealing a painting or two.
Boy, it would be such a shame, because some of those were like crown jewels in, centuries old settings. So it would be so sad if they actually did do that to move them. But it's very possible that that's what will end up happening.
Seriously, it's like you'd hope that like the museum would just be like, hey, yo, we know that you want to get them some money off this. Okay, just give it. We'll buy it back from you. You got us, but just don't destroy it, please.
Yeah.
There's actual value here. Like, I get it.
Yeah, it's a funny story and we laugh, but it is mostly just sad because it does suck to see stuff like this ruined, and it sets a precedent too that there will probably be more people attempting stuff like this. So it's not cool, but it is crazy. I mean, the whole thing is wild, so that'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there was lots of planning that went into this, but this is not Ocean's 11,
No, yeah.
stealing.
Right, that kind of like, hyper planning thing. It's like, no, we're just going to like smash and grab the Louvre.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Go in the back window, go right back out the back window.
Get
on scooters.
Probably delivering furniture one day and say, I bet this could get up to that second floor of the Louvre.
Right? Let's go.
But yeah.
All right. Any more news? Okay. Well, let's talk about what's making us happy. Paige, what's making you happy this week?
The newest season of The Diplomat on Netflix is what's making me happy.
Shoot.
And I know I've talked about this before, but the third season just came out recently, and it's with Kerry Russell and Rufus Sewell are the two main characters. So if you've seen The Americans or The Man in the High Castle, you'll recognize both of these actors. They're both really good. And it is being a diplomat for the UK from the US, and all of the kind of craziness that comes along with that. Much more about like what's happening in back channels and how many people are actually talking to one another in, ways that we never see. Plus, it's a husband and wife team. So she's the ambassador, but he's also has all kinds of connections as well. And the third season just kind of like takes it to another level of the UK and the US. Are they friends? Are they going to cut ties and start becoming enemies? It's just drama like from the get-go. So it's really fun to watch. It's really great to see these two together because their chemistry is great.
It's awesome. And it's so well written. It is crazy well written. It's crazy well written.
And you said Netflix?
Netflix.
And how many seasons is this now of the show? Is 2, 3?
This will be
3
a third.
seasons.
Third?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think there are 8 or 9 or 10 episodes, so you'll get through it in no time at all. But it's one of those ones where you start watching and you just want to keep clicking continue to see the next episode
Definitely.
because they're all dramatic and end on cliffhangers, and you're like, oh my gosh, how is this going to get worse, or what's going to happen next?
Yeah, there's a heck of a cliffhanger last year. It was crazy. All right, TJ, what's making you happy?
Claude Code is making me happy, but in a different way than you might expect. So,
Okay.
to tell a quick story, my kids are playing high school soccer, and they just threw this thing at the parents where we're making a scrapbook this year, and we need you all to create a page for your kid for the scrapbook. And they gave zero guidance on exactly how to do this because, of course, like we're all just sitting around with nothing better to do. So as someone, like, I don't have design talent, right? I don't know how to create a scrapbook page or anything like that. And so my first thought was I tried out things like Canva and some other like online templates, and they honestly didn't work all that well. Like Canva has a bunch of new AI features because of course they do.
Yeah, of course I do.
And I tried them and they were bad. They were like kind of hilariously bad in some cases, which sort of sucked. And so I brought this problem to our chat on the podcast, and Jack had mentioned, why don't you just have Claude Code attack this? And at first I thought, well, why would I do that? Claude Code doesn't make scrapbooks. This is like a design tool area. But within 30 minutes, I had something that was pretty decent. And after a few hours of playing, I had a really professional looking scrapbook page. And basically all I did is I just wrote out to Claude Code exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is it used CSS. It used some attributes in CSS that I had never actually used. Did you know that you can you can use sizing inches in terms of sizing for your, when you're building on the web. So it built
I did not know that. Of course
Claude
you can, but wow. What?
Claude just ripped this out. So it was like, yeah, we're going to build an 8 by 11.5 so that it looks good on one sheet of paper in the output, in the printed PDF. That kind of blew me away.
Okay.
It took the pictures I had, because basically I put the pictures I wanted to use in one for each of my kids in a folder. And I just told it, I need this to be a printable 8 by 11.5. It's for a soccer scrapbook. It should... I told it the school's colors because it worked that in, which was really cool. And like I said, it's even after 30 minutes, I had something usable. And then I had to play typical AI. I had to play with it for a while to get some of the final polish I wanted. But I was pretty happy with what we came up with. And it became a fun thing for us to do together because I could bring in my kids and say, like, what do you want it to do?
Sure,
It's your page, so we can work on it together. And I don't know. I had a blast, and I would have never in a million years thought to use Claude Code to do this, and it turned out great.
So was the final output like an HTML page for each of them with all the styling and images imported and all that stuff? Just like a typical web page?
It was a typical web page, and they needed a PDF. So all I did is Command P and print it as a PDF. Yeah. And because Claude had sized everything appropriately, it outputted exactly one page as a PDF. And it even put in print styling to account for, because browsers are weird about how they print out. And in fact, there was one issue. I had to switch out of Firefox because Firefox was doing something really weird with a background image because so browsers do a lot of things when you print to try to save you ink, for example. So they'll see like a solid background image and it'll be like, you're not going to want that because that's going to use up so much ink.
Right. Yeah.
And you're not going to read the text. So, for most situations, that is what you want. But I'm doing something, I'm taking a weird path here that I actually don't want the browser to intervene. And it's surprisingly hard to shut that off. Like even in Chrome, that was some of what I dealt with at the end. Is just trying to outsmart the browser in certain cases because I'm like, just please God, turn off all your special handling of here. Just give me authentically what I'm seeing here. But Claude was helpful because it did some of those things right off the bat. And I don't know, I was very impressed.
Nice. You can even go back to Claude and probably tell it like, hey, I'm running into this. It'll give you like, oh, we'll go to this setting, blah, 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 that. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Cool. All right. Well, what's making me happy this week is timers. I'm using timers in an interesting way. I've started using timers to limit myself in using like X. And so I set
yeah.
a timer for 5 minutes as like my oxygen mask of like I'm gonna go into the cesspit for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then then when the timer goes off, I shut the tab, and that's it. Like, because otherwise you really just kind of lose yourself in these things. And yeah. So like set a timer for yourself. Like I can only afford 5-10 minutes of this before I get out.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of healthy way to start dealing with some of this stuff.
I know that there are extensions, that you can download that will either kick you off of the app on your phone if you've surpassed your time limit. But are you using anything like that, or just like a regular timer?
I've just started using a regular timer, but I think Raycast has like one of these things where you can like give it like 30 minutes, but or I could probably do it for smaller amounts of time, but it's just something that I just started doing just recently because I was, you do like grilling and stuff. And so I tend to set a lot of timers for things like that. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, actually this could help a lot. And just like, I have a certain amount of time. I know, I want to get this done in the morning, and yeah. So making sure that I don't like overspend, because you can just get lost in it, for an hour, just like, like all these silly Twitter debates and things.
All these platforms are designed so that you do get lost. It's not just Twitter, it's Reddit, YouTube. They all are very much, and then the true social media, the Instagram, the TikToks, those are even worse, but they're specifically designed to keep you there.
Mm-hmm. Good for you, Jack. Put some limits in.
There you go. All right. Well, this has been a great week. Really fun talking to you guys. And join us on Discord. We've got a Front End Fire channel over there where we have like lots of fun conversations about what we talk about on Front End Fire with all of you. And of course, be sure to tell your friends to jump on the Front End Fire bandwagon and subscribe today. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and if you're planning any jewel heists, let us know your plans. We'll help evaluate it. Maybe if Claude help you.
Claude can help you figure that out. I suggest a smash and grab. Seems like the fastest way to get this done.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.